Meanwhile, here in California, sea urchins are being demonized because there are too many of them. I mean, I don't think there are too. How could there be too many sea urchins? I mean,
well, there can be, I think in the case of the sea urchins that are chewing on the kelp beds, it's a difficult subject, politically charged, driven by some special interest groups who would like to see the removal of all of those sea urchins. But I need to remind people, and I often do, that those sea urchins are actually native species.
yes,
They were there long before we were, and we're happily living in those kelp beds, and the cycle was complete, and everything was fine.
there's a place for everybody.
We cannot demonize animals that essentially don't have a brain. I mean, how do you do that? The vilification of sea urchins is disturbing to me because I think it puts people on either one side or the other side of the issue, when what we really need is science-driven discourse about how to solve this problem. It
Right.
is the problem. There is no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Kelp beds are suffering. There are people that are concerned about that and trying to fix the problem by doing some culling of sea urchins, but not wholesale, total destruction. I mean, it feels unethical to me to go in there and pick up a whole lot of sea urchins and stuff them in bags and carry them off to the landfill.
I know, it's just unethical. I mean, it's not their fault.
It's not their fault.
We're the ones who messed up the system.
But at the same, yes, exactly. So I think we need to point the demonizing finger at the right agency here.
Look in the mirror.
And I do think that there are ways to do this culling in a scientifically driven manner that is data driven, that allows us to figure out what's going on. There are people very interested in trying to get a market built for the purple sea urchin, so that people will collect them for food. Well, we then replace the predators that we've killed off.
Yeah.
Okay, which is often the case. You have native deer running everywhere, eating people's gardens. That's because we've removed all the predators that kept them in check. I would like to know what the answer would be if by removing the predators, some native squirrel ran around eating all of the native grasses and destroying native habitats, and what we would do about that sort of situation. I'm pretty sure we wouldn't be collecting all of the squirrels and gassing them and things like that. I just feel like there's a respect for nature that needs to be observed here. And there's a way to solve this problem that doesn't have to be unethical, that can be economically feasible for everybody concerned, because you're not going to solve this issue without making sure that human market-driven and socioeconomic driven forces are not taken into account.
No, that's true. And I've heard a lot of people say that, like there's a lot of the rockfish and the other so-called groundfish that will eat small urchins before they get, super spiny while they're still fairly vulnerable.
That's true.
And that a lot of the take and the commercial take and the recreational take of those fish is also part of the problem, in addition to the lack of the sea stars.
Right. And I see a question in the Q&A there about Pycnopodia helianthoides, which is the sunflower starfish,
right.
Which is a magnificent animal that gets to be, like a yard across with 30 some odd arms.
I love those. Yeah.
And they go charging through the environment, eating everything in sight, including sea urchin. But of course, they've been extirpated by this probably pathogen, the wasting disease. And you can't find them anymore. I mean, they're nowhere to be seen. And I think that's one of the primary reasons that the purple sea urchin population exploded. So what is the reason behind that explosion of disease? Could be related to global climate change, warming in the environment. Of course, we've removed the sea otters, and I see that there's an excellent suggestion to introduce more sea otters. I think that would be great. We know that sea otters chomp on sea urchins to their heart's content, to the point where if you have skeletons of certain examples of sea otters, their skull is actually purple from the amount of pigment. That
Just like the horn shark, right? They get little purple lips,
Yeah, yes, exactly.
But
Exactly. So it's a tricky and complicated. It's more complicated than going out and smashing every sea urchin that you
You're
find.
here.
absolutely.
You're not going to solve the problem.
But it's like taking that holistic look and saying, what can we do to bring back the sun stars? What can we do to expand the sea otters and
yeah, but you can't even make a fishery around the sea urchins that are there now, because they're basically zombie urchins.
yeah, they're just like,
They've run out of food.
yep.
Just like the abalone and all of the other things that live in these kelp forests. And the first thing a sea urchin does when it runs out of food is start resorbing some of the organic material that is in its gut and so on. And so they're just sitting there in a kind of stasis. They're not feeding on anything anymore.
But it would be cool not to have a commercial market, because then it becomes locked in, and rather look at the value of urchins alive than urchins dead.
I fully agree with you. But again, you need to have the public on your side. And so you need to find ways to do this that is sustainable, right?
Yeah.
If it is.
Yeah.